July 6th, I was returning from my hometown, Atlanta, back home to New York, and that day on the news, there was a continuous loop of the video of Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge being murdered by a police officer. And obviously, it was a very disturbing video, and I went to bed with that image in my mind. And then when I woke up the next morning, July 7th, I woke up and turned on CNN, as I often do, and there was a family in Minnesota on the news. And when I found out that there was actually another black man who had been murdered since I went to bed the night before, and the story was being reported the next morning, Philando Castile in Minnesota, I just felt devastated. I felt paralyzed. I had trouble getting out of bed, and I just didn't know what to do. So eventually, I got out of bed. My children were home from school that day in camp, and I went downstairs and I was making breakfast for them. And while I was making breakfast, the eggs were still scrambling. I walked over to my computer and I decided to start a Facebook group. And I typed MOBB, Mothers of Black Boys, create Facebook group. And my first post, I said, I am starting this group today because I don't know what else to do. 5 minutes later, after finishing breakfast, it had grown to 150. And I was like, wow, this is a lot of people. Do I know these people? And it grew to, I think, 500 an hour.
Wow.
And, next hour it was 1,000, then 2,000. Then I left and went to the grocery store, and I checked in on my phone. It was 4,000. I got back home. It was 7,000. Then it went up to 15,000. Went to 15,000. I posted like, hey, this is 15,000 people I don't know who joined this group. And what happened is people just spontaneously started sharing stories and images of their sons, beautiful images of their black sons, saying what their accomplishments were, their hopes, their dreams, like what they wanted for their lives, but also sharing their very real fear for that not coming true. So we were really just there to support each other, but by that night we had more than 21,000 moms from all across the country who had joined this group, just from people adding their friends and people asking to be a part of it. So much so that Facebook actually shut us down that night and wouldn't allow us to add any more people, because I found out later, like, if you grow too fast on Facebook, they think it's spam. So they shut us down, and then people were complaining. They wanted to boycott Facebook, so it became a whole other thing. So this is all in less than 24 hours. And from there, I just felt, one, very blessed by that day, because connecting with those moms did help me get through that day, like psychologically. And I've heard that from a lot of people now. But from there, it just kind of took off. So someone in North Carolina named Chris Baldwin, who I did not know, set up a conference call for Saturday morning, like, we need to get on the phone. And at first we were going to talk about a march, but when we got on the phone, it turned into what was the beginning of a strategy for a whole, plan and movement around how we solve this issue as moms. And we've been on calls every Saturday morning ever since. I've now formed multiple committees. We're looking for state captains, and we're building an actual organization, and this is all in 30 days or less. And as of now, we're at more than 128,000 moms. When I've had the idea of forming the support group, I thought that maybe over time we would get to a place of actually organizing and advocating and things like that. But within 48 hours, these women were like, no more. Enough is enough. We have to solve this problem. There was something about the Philando Castile case that was just different. Like, for a lot of people, that was the one that, like, no, we're not going to just change our profile picture again. We're not going to just do a hashtag. We're not doing that anymore. One, it's not working, but it's not enough. It's not fulfilling enough. And there was something that clicked for lots of women that day to say, we have to do something. And otherwise, we're going to go crazy. So it is healing in a way, because you feel like you're channeling your energies constructively, because otherwise we'd just be sitting in a place of frustration and anger and fear. So we're trying to take all of those emotions and channel it for good to actually save our sons, and we believe that we can. We are going to specifically focus on influencing policy and perception that impact how black boys and men are treated by law enforcement. So that is the singular focus. Like, studies show that organizations that have a singular focus are more effective than those who try to take on a lot of things. So we're going to attack that particular issue from all angles. So we have what I'm calling a 5-part approach. Number one is to influence policy. So we're studying all the policies surrounding this issue to figure out which ones we think we can have an impact on nationwide, because the laws are obviously different in different jurisdictions. So we want to choose things that if we all mobilize as moms all across America, that can have a national impact. Number two is to influence perception, because I think a big part of the issue is that there are just a lot of negative images of black boys in media. Law enforcement has, negative images in their mind, negative experiences, so we want to combat that with as many positive stories and positive images as possible. Number three is we want to partner strategically. So there may be things that we can't do just based on, our organization's mission, but if somebody else is trying to solve this problem from a different angle, or if they're focused on a different population, whether it be Latinos or women, et cetera, we want to partner with them because we think it needs to be a coalition, to get it done. We also want to promote self-care because a big part of it too is that as moms of Black boys, it's stressful. I described it as a self-diagnosed disorder called MOBB disorder because the level of stress and anxiety that you feel for just your son's lives. I mean, I'm very early in the process. I have a 7-year-old turning 8 on Saturday and a 4-year-old. But for women who have teenagers and beyond, the stories I hear, one about just what they've already experienced, in terms of encounters with law enforcement, and just their fears, literally every time they leave home, they're terrified that they may not return. So that's huge. The last thing that I left out is that we want to show our power. So that means showing our power at the ballot box and voting in candidates who, support our cause, and also showing our power at the cash register and supporting businesses and entities that support our cause. And we're hoping to have, the same type of impact that other mothers organizations have had, like MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I think that's a great example of a movement that was driven by concerned mothers with a singular focus to solve a particular problem. They made some strides. So I don't think that we would have all these people investing time, not just Saturday mornings. We're on the phone probably every night in some capacity until at least midnight, then we're talking online after that. I don't think people would invest that kind of time and energy if they didn't believe we could make a difference. So we absolutely believe we can solve, if not the whole problem, at least part of it, and make a difference for our sons. So I hope just the fact that we're coming from a place of a mother's love and concern automatically opens up people's hearts in a way that maybe a title like Black Lives Matter may not, right? I think, a lot of our objectives are the same, but just starting from the place of a mother's love and concern and fear will make it more accessible. Also, I think just the more we share our stories, just the stories I've heard from women in this group from meeting out. We met in Philly around the DNC. We've had local meetups in lots of states already. And just hearing people's personal accounts of the things they've gone through with their sons. I've shared some of the stories with non-Black friends, and it's changed their worldview. I've gotten comments, personal notes saying that it literally changed their whole perspective on what we have to go through. So I think just getting it out there more and sharing it more, and that'll be a big part of the change perception part of our plan, just to show more positive and diverse images of Black boys and men as well, so that people will view them as human. There are a lot of people out there who say, okay, well, if you just dress appropriately and you speak appropriately and you comply, then you won't have a problem. But then you say that, what's the excuse for Philando Castile, who's in his car, he discloses he has a legal weapon, he says he's going to get his wallet and ID, and he still gets shot? What's the excuse for the case in North Miami where someone is literally helping an autistic person and saying, I'm a mental health professional, he has a toy truck, and he still gets shot? So that story just doesn't hold up. If you talk to most Black men in America, President Obama has had encounters with the police. Like any celebrity you talk to, it's not unique. They're not taking time to ask questions about who's your family and what school did you go to and what brands are you wearing. They don't even take that time. If you look at the case of Tamir Rice, who's 12 years old, playing on the playground in Cleveland with a toy gun, they didn't walk up to him and say, oh, is this a toy gun? Where are your parents? How old are you? It was 2 seconds and he was dead. So anybody who believes in what we call the respectability theory is just kidding themselves. My older son has special needs, so honestly, I created this group for him because I worry a lot more for him. I worry for both of them. I worry for all, Black men and boys, but I would say the driving force behind me creating it was because I don't know if he can survive a police encounter where he has to follow directions quickly and comply, and I don't know. So I have to change this world for them. I don't know what the conversation should be anymore that will help them survive, and I actually think it's unfair as a parent to make me have to have that conversation. People keep asking me, what are you going to tell your sons? I don't think I should have to tell them anything. I want to tell the police to stop killing them. That's what I would like to do, because there is no reason that a parent should have the expectation to have to teach their children how to work around not being killed by the people who have pledged to, serve and protect them. And the thing I have to say about that is, I also want to make it very clear that we're not anti-law enforcement. We don't think all police officers are bad at all. In fact, we think most of them are going out every day and trying to, uphold their oath to protect and serve. And so we're doing this just as much for them as for our sons, because they are somebody's sons and daughters too. And it's not fair for the people who do put their lives on the lines every day and play by the rules to have their reputation damaged and their lives put at risk, even at times, because of the people who abuse their power and use excessive force. So it's very important to save them and solve this problem for them as well. My ideal world looks a lot like Dr. Martin Luther King's ideal world, where people are not judged by, their skin color, and that where our boys can grow up and have the same hopes and dreams and aspirations and freedom as everyone else, and not have to also live in fear of their lives, whether it be by law enforcement or other fellow citizens, just to feel a sense of freedom. Because one of the things I'm dealing with now, like my youngest child is very vocal and independent, and part of me feels like I need to kill that in him. And I shouldn't have to kill his sense of confidence and independence just for him to survive in the world. So I think I want a world where all children are able to be nurtured to be their best, boldest selves and reach their full potential. And right now I think the way, society is set up and the way black boys and men in particular are viewed, it's hard for them to do that at times. Taking it from the mother's angle is important, just to humanize them in a different way. Another thing that I value a lot about our group is that although we are moms of black sons, our group is very multiracial, multi-ethnic, all religions. We welcome everyone, and we've had quite a few non-black moms, white moms in particular, who joined the group, who are raising biracial children and just trying to figure out this whole conversation about race. So I'm hoping that will also help to humanize it more and gain more credibility and attention as well, because we're having some really interesting conversations with people who haven't had to think about this growing up, but now they're in a situation where they're seeing their sons being treated differently, and they're very concerned. The first weekend when we were at 20, then 40,000, I was overwhelmed. I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? Because people assumed that it was already an organization. So they were reaching out to me wanting to start a chapter in their state, wanting to buy the t-shirt, wanting to donate money. And it was just me. And I was like, whoa, God, what am I supposed to do with this? So the fact that so many people have surrounded me. When I tell you we have everything in this group we need to do anything in this world, we have CEOs, we have attorneys, we have doctors, we have mental health professionals, we have policymakers, we have celebrities, anything we need, graphic designers, anything we need in this group, we have. So I don't have to go out and hire anybody to do anything, because every resource we need has come to this group voluntarily. Do you understand what I mean? So the fact that that's happening organically with a force of passion unlike anything I've ever seen just tells me that in this moment, this is what I'm called to do. I'm a spiritual person, I'm a Christian, and I just believe that for whatever reason, on July 7th, God tapped me on the shoulder and said, tag, you're it. So I'm trying to take it as far as I can.